Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see all of their lies over a very long period of time. They are now starting to unravel around them. And yes, this includes the Federal Reserve. It includes all those people in the agencies. Because think about it, the job numbers came out and they're all made up under the Biden administration. And if they lied about that, we know they lied about almost everything. We've been lied to for a very, very long time. And what's very interesting about all of this, as Trump shows the people that these individuals are liars, the fake news are liars, basically it's bringing people to the precipice. Now, again, everyone reaches the precipice at all different times. During the Biden administration leading up to the presidential election of 2024, people hit the precipice and they said, this is enough. We can't do this anymore. And those people that most likely would have voted for maybe Biden or Kamala Harris, they said, look, we understand, but you know what? You're not doing your job. And Trump, he's continually telling us that this is what he's going to do, and we're going to be voting for Trump. Now, this time around, again, Trump is already in office. What he's going to do, and not him personally, but what the deep state is actually going to continue to do is they're going to continue to push their agenda. They're not going to stop. And Trump, I do believe he's counting on this because, again, why interfere with them when they're in the process of destroying themselves? Let them go down all of these different paths because it's a no-win situation with the American people, because common sense is eventually going to come into play. And this is why Trump continually says common sense, because that's what this is. And when you start to take the side of murderers, when you start to take the side of terrorists, when you start to take the side of war, when you start to take the side of an economy that should be destroyed, the people are looking at this going, well, wait a minute, I don't understand what's happening here. You're taking the side of evil? It doesn't make any sense. And this is what Trump has been counting on. And I do believe with what's happening out in Ukraine with Russia, I do believe he's allowing the deep state players to do what they do best. Bring us down this path to war. Remember, Trump is the peacemaker. They are the war makers. He knows that they do not want peace. He knows their entire mission is to bring the entire world to war. I mean, look what's happening out in France. Macron, like we said the other day, has something like a 15% approval rating. He's losing his government. Another prime minister is gone. And he's struggling right now. So either he's going to have a snap election, which he's going to lose, or he might get impeached. So what do you think these people are going to do when they're losing the people of their country? You think Keir Starmer has the people? Do you think Merz has his people? Do you think Macron or Carney? Do you think any of these people have the people behind them? No. So when these type of situations come up, what do these people push? They push war to distract everyone and to make sure, just like Zelensky, for example. Zelensky was using war. Oh, we have martial law. We can't have elections because, again, his approval rating is in the dirt. He knows that he won't be able to win an election. The same thing with these other people. So Trump, he understands this. He knows that this is the direction they're going to push us in, which means Trump is going to use this against them. Remember, Trump is not going to come out. He's not going to be out there saying, hey, look, let's go investigate Epstein. Let's go put these people in jail. I'll be driving this. I'll be pushing all this. Yes, he might say, I think with the bad things that these people have done, I think they should be in jail. But again, he's not going to be the one that's going to do it. The same thing with terrorists around the globe. Yes, he knows they're terrorists. He knows that the deep state players, they are funding these terrorists like Hamas. And he's not going to come out and say, hey, let's bomb Qatar. Hey, let's bomb Hamas in a sovereign country. He's not going to do this. Remember, POTUS, he must isolate himself to prevent negative optics. So Netanyahu is going to do all the things that everybody wants Trump to do. So Netanyahu is going to go after the terrorists in the Middle East. So is Israel going to go into Gaza? Yes. Is Israel going to bomb Doha? Yes. This is sending a message to the state-funded terrorists driven by the deep state players. We know that they're panicking right now because Brennan came out and he's defending the terrorists. I mean, really think about this for a second. And Trump, he is going to play the middleman just like with everything else. Because again, he's not taking sides. He's the negotiator of peace. And actually, if you look at Qatar, they actually want Hamas out of their country. And I do believe this is why Trump made the rounds and went to all these different countries, because he wanted them all on the same page. And you have to remember, the last time Qatar was attacked was via Iran. Were they given notification? Were they able to stop the attack? Absolutely. This time around, they allowed Israel to destroy certain buildings where Hamas was and killing some of the leaders. They could have stopped the attack at any moment. Why didn't they? Because I do believe they were instructed to let this happen. And again, Trump is going to play the middle ground. And then he's going to use what we just saw happen. He's going to use this against Hamas. Because again, he's building leverage, showing them, listen, you want to do this? No problem. This is what's going to happen. Might not be from me. It might be from another country. But you can see that we're going to go after you no matter what. And I do believe this is peace through strength. The same thing's going to happen with Russia and Ukraine. With the deep state, it's going to be a little bit bigger. It's going to be, I think, a little bit scarier. And I think he's going to use this to usher in peace. Basically, what's going to happen, he's going to bring this country and the world to the precipice of destruction. And when the people believe that we're at the precipice and they want someone to stop this, they want someone to actually negotiate peace so we don't end up in World War III, in a nuclear war, I do believe all eyes will be on Trump. And this is why he's taking that position and making sure the optics are not for him or against him. He's in the middle, and that's where he has to stay. And I do believe he will be using all what we're seeing right now against the deep state players, because he knows they're going to be making certain moves, and he's going to use it against them like he always does, without looking like he's part of anything. We'll be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about the murder of Irina, because we could see the fake news, the deep state players are having a very, very difficult time. And you have to remember, the deep state players, the fake news, the Ds, they never take the position of the victims. They always try to make it seem like, oh no, this is racist. Oh, this is, you shouldn't be, on the side of the victim. This is what they always do. But in the end, it's always going to fail. And if you notice, the fake news is really not covering the story at all. And you can see yesterday from Axios, they really didn't cover the story. They actually kind of blamed it on MAGA. And when you look at CNN, they did mention it on their homepage, but it's in very, very little tiny writing in the bottom compared to like George Floyd and everything else. Hans, he put this out and said, CNN has finally acknowledged the horrific murder of Irina. If you look really closely, you might even find it. And it's a little tiny writing down at the bottom. And pretty much everyone's going to miss it because they really didn't want to report on the story. And you could see that CNN, they're really basically trying to use the race card. They're not on the victim's side. And you could see that they are completely on the wrong side of everything, and the people are not with them whatsoever. Eric Doherty put this out and said, CNN's Brian Stelter fumes at people being racist after Irina was murdered in Charlotte by a thug and repeat criminal. It's being used as a political symbol. Some of the comments are badly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a white woman. It's eye-popping. Stelter also says many of the replies to Elon Musk's posts on this are problematic. So basically, he is now trying to convince everyone that we shouldn't be talking about it. We shouldn't be saying that this individual is a criminal. This individual isn't black. And this has nothing to do with racism. This has to do with a criminal. And yes, he just so happens to be black. But again, you could see what they're trying to do here, because if it was the opposite way and it was a white man and it was a black girl, they'd be all over saying the white man killed the black girl. DC Drainer responded to this and said, CNN using the classic Democratic playbook of not focusing on the crime, but instead being upset with the people's reactions to the crime. They tried to label you racist for calling out the barbaric murder of an innocent woman on a train. Thankfully, this cheap tactic no longer works with the people of this country. And this is the typical Dem playbook. Blame the reaction, not the crime. This is what they do. And you can see why the mayor of Charlotte didn't want the video being put out there. Number one, it shows him stabbing her. She just didn't die. And a lot of people have this misconception that if you're stabbed, you just all of a sudden pass out and die. Or if you're shot, you just pass out and die immediately. Sometimes when, let's use, for example, you're shot, you could take 3-4 shots and it might take a little while for you to die. Same thing with a stabbing. You could be stabbed multiple times, but again, you're going to be losing blood. You might be awake, and then eventually what happens is that you pass out and then you die, and sometimes you suffer through all of it. But once again, this is one of the reasons why they didn't want people to see this video. And the other reason is because of what DeCarlos Brown said. C3 put this out and said, now we know why they didn't want to release the entire video. DeCarlos Brown can be heard saying, I got the white girl. After he murdered the innocent Irina, Dems and media didn't want Americans to see the racial aspect. Think about that. Absolutely. And think about this. The federal magistrate judge allowed DeCarlos Brown Jr. to walk free months before he senselessly murdered Irina. And basically, he had a rap sheet. We know that he's been in and out or released, 13, 14 times or something. This is all the way going back to 2007. And what's very interesting is that this individual, he was schizophrenic. He told police he thought that man-made materials were inside his body controlling his movements. He wanted officers to investigate this man-made material that was inside his body. And basically, he should have been in an insane asylum, and he should have been locked up. But again, you have these judges, and maybe these judges should be responsible or held accountable for what happened here, because every time they release a criminal, and yes, I get it. If it's a one-time criminal and the evidence is murky, but if you have done this 5, 8, 12, 15 times, I think the message is pretty darn clear that maybe we shouldn't release this person onto the street. Now, the other thing that's very interesting, and Megan Basham put this out, another factor in the death of Irina on Charlotte's light rail, the left-wing MacArthur Foundation giving Mecklenburg County a $3.3 million grant to reduce the jail population, specifically as part of a racial equity aims. Like Soros, Open Society, the MacArthur Foundation incentivizes local municipalities to make residents left safe by leaving threats like DeCarlos Brown on the streets. So basically, they were paid to do this. Think about that for a second. Absolutely unbelievable. But FBI Director Kash Patel, he says the FBI has been investigating the Charlotte train murder from day one. Stay tuned. Now, a lot of people are saying, what does he have to investigate? There's a black guy. He's been in and out and released. We saw him open the pocket knife. He stabbed the person, but I do believe this goes far beyond this, because I do believe other people should be held accountable, and I do believe this is exactly what's going to happen. So it's not just investigating, oh, was it just this one person? I do believe there were a lot of things that were involved in this that allowed this to happen, and I think that's what he's actually really investigating. And I do believe we're going to find out that, yes, there were a lot of people involved in releasing these criminals onto the streets, just like in Chicago, just like out in LA, just like out in New York. It's all of the same exact playbook that Soros and team have been using. And I do believe that this is what this investigation is truly about. But Trump, he responded to all this and said the following: I've seen the horrific video of a beautiful young Ukrainian refugee who came to America to escape the vicious war in Ukraine, and was innocently riding the metro in Charlotte, North Carolina, where she was brutally ambushed by a mentally deranged lunatic. The perpetrator was a well-known career criminal who had been previously arrested and released on cashless bail in January, a total of 14 times. What the hell was he doing riding the train and walking the streets? Criminals like this need to be locked up. The blood of this innocent woman can literally be seen dripping from the killer's knife, and now her blood is on the hands of Democrats who refuse to put bad people in jail, including former disgraced governor and wannabe Senator Ray Cooper, North Carolina and every state needs law and order, and only Republicans will deliver it. Additionally, there is the outrage from the mainstream media on this horrible tragedy. Vote for Michael Whatley for United States Senate. He won't let this happen again. And once again, you can see that there's a lot more people that are involved in this. Remember, this has been an entire plan to allow these criminals to roam free, because we know the deep state players are going to be using the criminals later on in the riots. And this is why Trump is going into all of these different cities, because he wants to shut this down before it happens. And yes, there's many different agendas. It's actually to stop the cheating in the election, to remove and deport the illegals who are criminals, and also remove those criminals that are roaming the streets. So when Antifa comes in and they try to push riots under the guise of protests, there'll be no one there to join in. That's the whole point of this. And yes, it also makes it so they can't cheat in the election. So we have all of this right now. And this is why you have the governors defending the illegals, just like Pritzker, because he knows that, listen, if we lose these people, none of us are going to be elected. And the Republicans are going to take control. We can't allow this to happen. I think by the end of all of this, by the midterms, we're going to see a lot of D's replaced with Republicans, and we're going to see a huge change, especially in the blue states and the blue cities. I do believe we're going to see a lot of Republican governors and a lot of Republican mayors take the place of these people, and we're going to see these areas completely start to shift and turn around. And once this happens, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to see the people vote for Republican after this, because once they see it, they can't unsee it. This is Trump's most powerful weapon right now. All he has to do is allow the people of these cities to see the truth. And once he shows them the truth, where these people have been lying to them, there's nothing that they can say. What are they going to say? We can make it even better than what Trump did when they lied this entire time? We can stop the crime now? They have nothing at that point. And this is going to be a major, major problem. And every day that passes, you could see there are more and more women being murdered by these criminals that are being released onto the streets and by illegals. Charlie Kirk put this out and said, it happened again. Another white woman was hacked to death over the weekend for no apparent reason by a suspect who is black with multiple prior arrests, including illegal possession of sawed-off shotgun and removing serial numbers from firearms in Virginia. Julie Gard Shunell, a former veterinarian professor, had taken her dog for a walk in Auburn when the suspect, Harold Rashad Dabney III, allegedly murdered her by stabbing and stole her truck before being arrested the next day. Her dog stayed by her side until the body was discovered. Once again, if the races were reversed, the outcry would be instantaneous and apocalyptic. And yet, you're probably just hearing about this now, and that is absolutely true. And you could see that Kash Patel, he is now cracking down not just on these murders, but on the violent gangs. And you have to remember, a lot of these violent gangs, they're part of the cartels. They're part of these illegals that are coming into this country. So FBI Director Kash Patel now is basically going after all of these different gangs and cartels. And this is what he put out on X. America is done tolerating poison and violent gangs on our streets. Thanks to FBI Illinois, whose work shows cartels these days are numbered. Under President Trump's mission to make our cities safe again, these terror networks are no longer welcome in the USA. So we're going to see a huge crackdown. And I do believe people are going to see, especially those people in the city, they're going to see everything start to turn around. And this is the worst thing that could ever happen to the D's, except being thrown to prison. But this is their worst nightmare. Trump cleaning everything up. The people out on the streets saying, look how safe the city is. Oh, my God. All the illegals are gone. The garbage is gone. We can go to dinner where it's safe to ride the trains. This is incredible. The D's are screwed at this point, because once the people see it, once the people experience it, forget about statistics. Forget about all the propaganda from the media. No one's going to listen, because the people are going to say, yeah, you're wrong, because I see the difference in my neighborhood. And you can see DHS, they're ready to move in to all these different areas. They're ready to move into Chicago, and DHS law enforcement, they're going to continue to flood the zone in Los Angeles. So we can see that DHS, they're not going to stop. And this is going to be a complete and utter disaster for the deep state players, just like it's a complete and utter disaster for the deep state players, for the fake news, because they tried to push fake information in regards to Epstein. And Trump called it out from the very, very beginning, saying this is one gigantic hoax. And they released a tranche of Epstein information. And within the tranche of Epstein information, what was there? There was a typed letter, a poorly drawn out woman, and a signature that doesn't match Trump's signature. And what's very interesting, why would Trump type the letter? Does that make any sense? But what did come out is Bill Clinton's creepy birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein's. And we're going to see a lot more of this information. And what's very interesting is that Bill Clinton actually hand wrote the birthday letter. Isn't that interesting? And this is what he wrote. Happy 50th. It's reassuring, isn't it, to have lasting as long across all years of learning and knowing, adventures, and also to have your childlike curiosity, the drive to make a difference, and the solace of friends. That's very, very interesting. And Carolyn Levitt, she confirms that the letter that they say it's from Trump, it's not from Trump. It's not his signature. He didn't write this. He didn't draw the picture. And we know that the fake news, the deep state players, they were trying to push a lot of fake information in all of this, and Trump shut it down. And I do believe in the end, we're going to see the real evidence come out. And remember, timing is everything. Why would you release it now? We're just building up and letting the people digest who the players are, who's treasonous to this country. But J.D. Vance, he put this out on X and he said, Democrats don't care about Epstein. They don't even care about his victims. That's why they were silent about it for years. The only thing they care about is concocting another fake scandal like Russiagate to smear President Trump with lies. No one is falling for their BS, and that is absolutely true. But I think Brother Street Joy just pretty much sums it up. I said it before. I'll keep saying it. The Epstein files can't be released. They are evidence. They will come when indictments are unsealed. It's going to be a list so Anons can bully a judge people without real consequences. You will see the files when the arrests come, and that is absolutely true. And remember, we only have one chance to do this and do it right, and we have to follow the rule of law. And Lisa May follows this up with post 3724, and she says, it must be done right. It must be done according to the rule of law. It must carry weight. It must be proven in the court of law. There can be no mistakes. Good things sometimes take time. Attempts to slow block the inevitable justice will fail. And yes, if we're going to stop the deep state players, it's not just about putting out a little bit of information. That doesn't stop the deep state players. We need to build the case. We need to make sure that the people understand these people are the guilty party, and the case and everything that they've done has to be airtight. Because remember, this entire mission is about what? Taking back the country, moving these criminals from the government, removing them from across the country, and getting rid of them once and for all. That's what this is all about. It's not making you feel better because certain information comes out. The entire mission is to actually take all these people and throw them in prison and make sure they stay in prison. Maybe some of these people will take the easy way out, which they probably will. But that's the whole mission here. And that is where all this is headed. Trump, he laid this out in a plan. And you can see every step of the way, he's moving the deep state players a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Now they're at the point and they're defending the criminals. They're defending the trans people. They're defending the pedophiles. They're defending war. They're defending the indefensible. They're on the wrong side of history. Did you know a growing body of research shows that when you diet, your body fights back? Levels of ghrelin, the hunger hormone, shoots up, while leptin, the hormone that signals fullness, drops. That's why most diets feel like an endless battle. The more weight you try to lose, the hungrier you get. It's not a willpower issue. It's literally your biology. This is why I use my secret weight loss weapon, and I'm obsessed with the results. BioTrust GLP-1 Elevate is designed to naturally trigger my own body's weight loss signals without drugs, prescriptions, or needles. It promotes a feeling of fullness, reduce cravings, reduce hunger hormones, help me lose fat instead of muscle, and supports healthy blood sugar levels. Be sure to grab a bottle now while it's 50% off and start experiencing real results only at trimwithx22.com. Plus, by ordering now, you'll also guarantee 2 free ebooks titled The 3-Week Diet and 53 Fat-Burning Smoothies and Milkshakes. Once again, the website is trimwithx22.com, or just click the link in the description. And Trump is going to use all of this against them, especially when the evidence comes out. Because again, think about it. They're defending all of this. When the evidence comes out, people are going to understand why they have been defending all of this. It will make perfect sense. And then people will start to put all the pieces together. Think about it for a second, especially when we're on the precipice of war. People are going to say, we don't want to go to war. And the fake news, the deep state players, they're going to say, no, we must go to war. They're not going to say it in that way. Trump is going to say, no, we want peace. We need to calm this down. We can't go to war. This will be a nuclear war. There might even be a false flag that people might see that something just happened. And this is where people are going to really hit the precipice. And this is going to actually change people's minds. They're going to have the will to change at this point, because think about everything that they're seeing. Remember, the deep state players, they're going to keep pushing, and they're going to stay on the side of vaccines, of the COVID vaccine and everything they did. When the evidence comes out and it shows that they were involved in all this, they knowingly did all this, this is going to be a complete and utter disaster for them. Now, the other thing that we could see happening right now is Brendan Carr of the FCC. He is now shutting down China every step of the way. And remember, the overthrow of the United States government, the infiltration of this country, is not just the domestic terrorists in this country, and that is the deep state players. It's not we the people. They have been working with foreign governments to destroy America. And there are a lot of deep state players within different foreign governments. And Brendan Carr, he has identified 7 test labs that are apparently owned or controlled by China. Up to now, these labs have been authorized to review electronics headed for the U.S., including national security checks. We're now taking action to kick bad labs out of the U.S. system. So what are these test labs? Well, they refer to the accredited testing laboratories or telecommunications certification bodies. These are independent facilities authorized by the FCC to evaluate and certify electronic devices, telecommunications equipment, and wireless products intended for import, sale, or use in the United States. So basically, we were having China test a lot of this stuff. Do you really think they were making it safe for the people of this country? The FCC, they were concerned that China might have compromised some of the testing. And I do believe they probably did, which is very, very interesting. Now, the other thing that's really interesting, remember when Trump had Microsoft and Oracle and Facebook? They were all involved in this meeting. Now, of course, Trump knows what they've been up to. He knows that they've been helping China. They know that they've been censoring the people of this country. They know they're in line with the deep state players. He knows all of this. But again, he's actually keeping the enemy very close and keeping an eye on these individuals, and probably is going to force them to do things that they probably don't want to do in the end. But what's very interesting is that these U.S. tech giants, Microsoft, Intel, Oracle, and others, they help China build something called the Golden Shield, which is a surveillance system using predictive policing to analyze text calls and DNA to preemptively detain people deemed suspicious. So the Golden Shield surveillance system is the Great Firewall of China, is a comprehensive national surveillance and censorship initiative operated by China's Ministry of Public Security. Now, think about this. They built this in China. Do you think they wanted to use this across Europe and here in the United States? Absolutely. I do believe this is why they were building it. This is why they were involved in it, because eventually this was going to be used across the globe. And I do believe that Trump knows this and he understands what they were preparing to do. Plus, you have to remember a lot of these tech companies that were also involved in manipulating the elections. Now, talking about elections, we can see that French President Macron, he's in trouble because the fifth prime minister in 2 years has now exited following a no confidence vote. And you have to remember, Macron's approval rating is very, very low, something like 15% or so. And he's in trouble. And once again, the opposition groups, and this is coming from Wall Street Maverick, they're calling for either snap elections or moving to impeach Macron. Now, like we said before, he's in trouble. I do believe Carney's going to be in trouble. I do believe Keir Starmer's in trouble. I do believe Mertz is in trouble. Because think about it. All of their nations, they're struggling. Their economies are failing. And actually, if you look back to World War I, World War II, the same exact thing was happening in all these different countries. The economies were falling apart. And I do believe as the economies fall apart, and if you look at the central bank history, they always like to start wars to basically reduce the population and reset everything. That's why they called it a Great Reset back in March of 2020. Klaus Schwab came out and said it. Prince Charles at the time, now he's king, he came out and said it. This was done on purpose because that is their plan. So I do believe the only way Macron can get out of this at this point, and all the other installed politicians, is to either drop out, which I don't think they're going to do, have a snap election, which I don't think they're going to do, unless they can really cheat in it. But I think with their approval rating right now and the way the polls are showing, who's going to vote for them, I don't think that's going to be possible because you just can't have them win and you look at the results and say, well, this is impossible because look how many people voted against you. How did you actually win? The numbers don't make sense. The other alternative is to try to bring the entire world to World War III for a distraction and basically maybe implement martial law, stop the elections, just like Zelensky did. I do believe they're probably going to follow in the footsteps, but we'll have to see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. Now, the other thing that's really interesting is that there was a power outage in Berlin, Germany. Tens of thousands of households are without electricity. Now, the power is coming back on, but again, they're saying that this was done by extremists. Now, is it the people of Germany and the AfD party that are the extremists? No, it's a far left group that actually decided to light, I think, poles on fire, and they brought down the electrical grid. So this is very, very interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more of this. Now, again, Germany's in trouble. Their economy is completely and utterly failing. They're in a death spiral. They can't pay for their programs. And what is their alternative? Because remember, they pushed the Green New scam very, very hard. And now they're in trouble. So you look at Germany, you look at France, you look at the UK, all these countries are in trouble. And what are they doing? They're going to be pushing war very, very hard. And I think Trump and the Patriots, I think they know this. I think they know that this is where all of this is headed. And I think why interfere with an enemy while in the process of destroying themselves? Because again, the people around the world do not want war. Now, normally, here in the United States, you would have a deep state president in position, and they would be talking about peace. But in the end, they would actually bring the U.S. into the war that is going to start out in Europe, just like in World War II. This time around, it's going to be a little bit different because we have an outsider, and Trump is actually a peacemaker. He does not want war. So this is going to be very, very different as we move forward. And I do believe Trump is going to use this against them, just like he's using what just happened to Hamas in Qatar, in the city of Doha. Now, what's very interesting, we know that Trump went ahead and he made a deal with Israel. And he said, Hamas, all you got to do is release all the hostages. Israel will release 2,500 to 3,000 Palestinian prisoners. They'll send him back to Gaza. Israel will remove its forces from Gaza. And Hamas, as terrorist groups normally go, they rejected the plan. they decided we don't want to do this. So what happened? Israel went ahead and Israel bombed the location of the terrorist group in Doha. Now, I do believe this was a firm message letting the terrorists know, and remember these terrorists, they're state-funded terrorists. Yes, the deep state players, they've been funding these terrorist groups just like they've been funding the terrorists in Ukraine and everywhere, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, you name it. And I do believe this was a message to the terrorist organization and the deep state players. Now, I do believe that for optic reasons, Trump has to stay in the middle. He can't be on the side of Israel. He can't be on, the side of saying, hey, we ordered this. So he's going to stay in the middle, and he's going to allow Israel to do what they do best. They're right there in the Middle East. They've been fighting Hamas this entire time, and I do believe that Qatar was on board with this. But OSINT Defender put this out, and Netanyahu backs up the entire narrative that Trump and the U.S. had nothing to do with this. Statement from the office of Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu following today's strike against Hamas leadership in the Qatari capital of Doha. Today's operation against Hamas terror leader was completely independent Israeli operation. Israel initiated it, Israel managed it, and Israel takes full responsibility. So right there, Netanyahu is actually letting everyone know the U.S. had nothing to do with this. Trump then put this out on Truth. He said, this morning, the Trump administration was notified by the United States military that Israel was attacking Hamas, which, very unfortunately, was located in a section of Doha, the capital of Qatar. This was a decision made by Prime Minister Netanyahu. It was not a decision made by me, unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. I immediately directed Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to inform the Qataris of the impending attack, which he did. However, unfortunately, too late to stop the attack. I view Qatar as a strong ally and friend of the U.S. and feel very badly about the location of the attack. I want all the hostages and bodies of the dead released and this war to end now. I also spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu after the attack. The Prime Minister told me that he wants to make peace. I believe this unfortunate incident could serve as an opportunity for peace. Peace through strength. I also spoke to the Emir and Prime Minister of Qatar and thanked them for their support and friendship to our country. I assured them that such a thing will not happen again on their soil. I have directed Secretary of State Marco Rubio to finalize the defense cooperation agreement with Qatar. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So once again, Qatar, they have the air defense system like the Patriot, the THAAD, NASAMS, F-15 patrols. Do you really think that they didn't understand that this was happening? They did. I do believe one way or another, they knew it was going to happen. And I do believe they want Hamas out of their country once and for all. And Israel killed the Hamas leaders, Khalid Mashal and Khalil Alahaya in Qatar. So the two Hamas leaders were hiding out in the country. And you could see the building that was hit, it had a lot of damage to it, which is very, very interesting. But in late 2024, following Hamas's rejection of U.S.-backed hostage deal, the United States requested that Qatar expel Hamas leaders from Doha, deeming their presence no longer acceptable. Qatar agreed to this demand and notified Hamas around October 28, 2024, to leave the country. By November 2024, reports confirmed that senior Hamas leaders, including Khalil al-Hayya, were no longer in Doha, though Qatar clarified that its Hamas office was not permanently closed. This move was seen as a direct response to U.S. pressure and a step forward, distancing itself from the group amid stalled Gaza talks. Now, later on, it looks like these two individuals came back into Qatar and they went to those offices. Qatar wants Hamas out of their country. So I do believe this was a way of sending a message to the deep state players. And I do believe Qatar allowed the bombing to happen. It was a one-off thing. It was a message. And you could see that former CIA Director John Brennan said that Israel's strike on Hamas and Qatar are a sign of more chaos in the region. He says it's very dangerous and destabilizing escalation of tensions in the region. No, it's very dangerous because these are the deep state-funded terrorists. And what he's really saying is that we will do other things now because of what is done, which means if they do try to do something, all hell is going to break loose and the state-funded terrorists are going to be completely and utterly destroyed. So I do believe Trump set it up. And of course, the optics are very, very good for him. I wasn't involved in this, but it's all set up showing them that, listen, we will strike you anywhere, just like the drug runners from Venezuela. Very, very similar. You want to play the game? We'll play it a lot better. We'll hit you anywhere you are. And the countries, they're not going to defend you. And that's exactly what just happened. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said, I'm pleased to report that Elizabeth Tsurkov, a Princeton student whose sister is an American citizen, was just released by Hezbollah and is now safely in the American embassy in Iraq after being tortured for many months. I will always fight for justice and never give up. Hamas, release the hostages now. So I think that's a clear message. I think they understand that they do not have the protection of Qatar anymore, and there's no place to hide. Let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. Just like it's very, very interesting on how RFK Jr. is now going after Big Pharma. And think about all the things that Trump is doing right now. He has Hamas to deal with. He has Russia, Ukraine, and the deep state players. Remember, the deep state players are behind all this. Deep state players are behind Big Pharma. He has RFK Jr. and the people under RFK Jr. going after Big Pharma. Trump is going after the deep state domestic terrorists within this country that are protecting the criminals, protecting the illegals. Trump is battling with all these people, and he's battling with those individuals that were in the BLS that were putting out fake information, hiding the fact that we've been in a recession since probably 2023, 2024. And now this is coming to light. So you could see that Trump, he is battling the deep state on all fronts right now, and he's winning. You know why? Because the military is behind him, and more importantly, the people are behind him. And as time goes on, more and more people are going to be on his side. But RFK Jr., he is now going directly at Big Pharma, and he's letting everyone know that, yeah, there's poisons in these vaccines, and they're not good for you. Children's Health Defense put this out and said, RFK Jr. said the following: if you get poisoned by Coca-Cola, you can stop drinking Coca-Cola. But if you get poisoned by a vaccine, your kids still have to take the vaccine to get to school. If you have reservations about it, you've got to take it anyway. And then, of course, the mainstream media is bought and brain dead when it comes to these issues. They will not criticize. They will not report vaccine injury. You have none of the market forces that apply that make other products safe. There is zero incentive for these companies to make them safe. They don't get punished for it in the market. They don't get punished for it in the court. What we're going to try to do is to make sure the parents who do get injured get compensation, that they get it very quickly and they get it without the kind of adversarial impediments that have now been erected over the past 40 years. How about if we just shut down all the vaccines until they're completely and utterly tested? Because I think we're going to find out, and I think he's going to do this, most of these vaccines, they're very, very dangerous to we the people. And a lot of these vaccines we really didn't need. And I think over the many, many years, they've been trying to weaken the population here. They've been trying to depopulate because, again, this is all part of their plan. And you can see that Soros and many others, they were involved in all of this. And you can see that it really has been infiltration from within. Because when you look around the country, you can see that George Soros and his son Alex Soros, they went ahead and they pretty much installed all these different prosecutors that would let the criminals out, that won't defend American citizens or the victims of these crimes. And they did this across the country. And when you look at the map, and George put this out, you can see it's up and down the eastern seaboard. It's out in Illinois. It's out in Wisconsin. It's out in California. Most of Middle America, they didn't really get involved with. But if you look at Washington, you look at Oregon, you look at California, even Florida, Texas, you could see they were very strategic in where they placed their prosecutors to make sure that the criminals would eventually return to the streets, or the illegals that are in this country would eventually return to the streets. This was done on purpose. And this is what Trump now is shutting down. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that we see Special Counsel Ed Martin. He dropped a bombshell announcing a full-scale investigation into the actions of the January 6th committee for the deliberate destruction and tampering of evidence and the issuance of illegitimate pardons signed by an auto pen. Last Refuge responded to this and said, where this is hopefully going, you see, there's a reason why the J6 committee deleted the records of their activity, an angle missed by most. The J6 committee used interfaces with the NSA database and prior portals with aligned social media databases, including Twitter. As research and evidence gathered mechanisms for their investigation, the targets were identified by a collaboration between the Legislative Research Group and the FBI. That's unlawful, by the way, but that's another matter. The FBI contracted Palantir to identify the targets using facial recognition software and private sector databases. Once identified, the targets were then searched in the NSA database for a fulsome context of identity. All subsequent electronic metadata of the targets were retrieved and utilized in prosecution. However, no one ever discovered this was the collaborative method. That has not come out yet. And this is completely and utterly unconstitutional if you really think about it. And this is all the data that they've been collected on the American public. How did they get this data? Via the FISA courts. I mean, think about what they've done here right now. Remember, they collected emails, phone calls, text messages, all of this, and it's been kept in the NSA databases. And this is why they had to basically hide all of this, because this was completely illegal. This is completely unconstitutional. And I do believe this information is going to be coming out. This is going to be very, very interesting. Just like it's very, very interesting that all of a sudden, Anthony Weiner's laptop is now making the news. Isn't that interesting? We had Epstein. That information was sent to the Oversight Committee. We learned that there are fake information in there. Trump wanted the grand jury information coming out about Epstein. Now we're getting the Anthony Weiner laptop that basically is going to show maybe emails from Clinton and other things. But this is what Storm Azurai put out. Okay, this is getting good. John Solomon is now reporting on the Anthony Weiner laptop. Kash Patel has opened the investigation into whether the FBI's own agents obstructed political sensitive cases. The investigation stems from finding information in prohibited access case files, which is an FBI term for politically sensitive investigations. Basically, they are cases where info is kept off the books so other agents can't even access it. But here's where it gets good. One of the memos uncovered involves the discovery of Anthony Weiner's laptop. But it gets even better. John Solomon says that the sources are telling him that a grand jury has been impaneled to look at it, and some of the evidence is going to be turned over in a bombshell notification to Congress later this month. Oh my, the Weiner laptop is suddenly popping into the news cycle out of nowhere. This is going to be very, very interesting. And you can see that Trump and the Patriots, what they're doing, and they're building upon the case. And it's going to get worse and worse for the deep state players. It's going to implicate Clinton. It's going to implicate Obama. It's going to implicate Brennan, Comey, Clapper, Susan Rice, Victoria Nuland. You name it. This is going to go far and wide. And you're going to see how this is going to be linked to what happened on Epstein Island, how it's going to be linked to the sale of Uranium One, how it's going to be linked to the pedo networks, how it's going to be linked to almost everything that we have been seeing for a very long time. And you can see that the deep state players, they are pretty darn desperate because they know that Trump now, he is now basically removing their ability to cheat in the midterm election. And what's very interesting is that the Florida GOP chairman, Evan Power, he sounded the alarm on the alleged voter fraud taking place in Broward County, Florida. And he's saying that these people now are adding 100,000 ineligible voters back into the voter rolls recently. Now, what's very interesting is that Broward, they pretty much updated what has been happening. And this is the notice that they put out. As of September 2nd, 2025, voter registration totals are being updated to reflect both active voters and inactive voters, but still eligible voters. Inactive voters remain eligible to vote. Under no circumstances are ineligible voters ever included in any official voter roll. So that's very interesting. So these people are inactive. Did they move? Why haven't they decided that they're going to vote? Can these inactive voters be used for illegals? Can they be used on the mail-in ballots? Most likely, yes. Evan Power says, now Broward Votes adds this sad update. Why would you do it different than the other 66 counties? Clearly, the law needs to be changed so one supervisor does not do the bidding of politics rather than fair reporting. So that is very, very interesting, which means the inactive voters, as I think we all realize, they're going to be used to manipulate the voting, and most likely they're probably going to dump ballots or whatever they're going to have to try to up the count of voters for who they want. So we could see that this needs to be stopped right off the bat. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that in a stunning decision, Governor Whitmer appointed judge dismissed the outrageous case against 15 Michigan alternative 2020 Trump electors. And I think the AG kind of destroyed her entire case. Patty, Michigan, put this out and said, Michigan's partisan hack, AG Dana Nessel, explains to far-left group how difficult it is to get the Republican 2020 alternative electors to flip on each other because they legit believe Trump won the 2020 election. She totally blew her case when she admitted they didn't commit any crimes because they genuinely believe they were right and believe he won the 2020 election. She has no case. She's screwed, which is unbelievable. And think about everything that we've been witnessing. Think about what Trump has been doing. This entire mission is to do what? It's to take the country back. And everything that Trump is doing, that is the entire mission. Now, sometimes he might be doing it in a way that you don't like, that it doesn't meet your expectations. But you have to remember, the plan is to expose the deep state players, wake the people up, and have the people say enough is enough, and basically have the deep state floundering because they don't have the people on their side. Because once you don't have the people on your side, you really can't do anything. You're kind of screwed. And I think this meme sums it up. I'm giving you your country back from the criminal psychopaths who stole it from you. And half of you don't even know it yet. And that is absolutely true. And what's very interesting, since we've been talking about the precipice and everything, Elon, he put out a message on X and says, are you awake now? And think about how many more people are waking up. Think about how many more people are seeing the truth. And remember, throughout this entire process, POTUS is going to isolate himself to prevent negative optics. And this is exactly what he's been doing. But all of this reminds me of post 4641. September 9, 2020. There's a huge American flag and it says, the swamp runs deep. Sometimes you cannot tell people the truth. You must show them. Only then at the precipice will people find the will to change, to participate. We, the people, have been betrayed for a very long time. Will you stand for God and country, for freedom, for humanity? Where we go one, we go all. And I do believe that people, they need to see all of this play out. They need to understand who the criminals truly are. They need to see that these people are not on their side. And I think every step of the way, more and more of this country are starting to realize this. Why do you think the deep state players have to resort to paid protests? They have to pay the protesters because they don't have the people behind them. The only reason they can have these protests is because they pay them. This is not organic. Like Trump's rallies, the protests that Trump has, the people of this country, that's organic. When the deep state is losing, they have to resort to fully paid protesters, which means they don't have the people whatsoever. And as time goes on, even the people getting paid are not going to be on their side. It's going to get worse and worse for them. And I do believe in the end, the country is going to reach the precipice and they're finally going to find the will to change. And this is how Trump is going to unite the country. It's already in play. It's already happening. And it's going to get worse and worse for the deep state players and better for we the people. Why? Because the patriots are in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.